Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Convo with Convo. My guest today is Osman Rashid, whom I would like to describe as a serial entrepreneur. Someone who doesn't give up, who keeps coming up with brand new ideas to solve some problem on this planet, and he goes after it like there is no tomorrow. And he never works alone, he works with teams. Now, of course, this is something to be admired in anyone and everyone. And ambition, I suppose, drives this particular trait that Osman Sahab so well represents. My question, and my name, by the way, as the host on your behalf, is Kamran Z Rizvi. I'm also on YouTube channel, so you can find me there by this name. My inquiry, and I work in the field of organizational development, inspirational speaking, and coaching, executive coaching in particular, and it's my interest to discover what drives an individual. And this conversation, sir, is about discovering you from a different angle. And the lens that I would like to give is as follows. Most of us are what we are because of our childhood experience. We have unconsciously acquired a set of beliefs which result in our thoughts, which then make us feel what we do, and those feelings create the vibe and the behaviors that we witness and experience. So I would like to delve into your past, to understand the Osman Rashid we admire. What kind of a past from childhood to the first 10 years, let's say, did you have, and what kind of beliefs have you acquired which you are deploying even to this day?
Thank you so much. It's an honor to speak to you, and thank you for taking the time. I'm looking forward to this whole discussion. To answer your question, I was one of 7 kids. So as you can imagine, the parents, it's very difficult to keep track of each one of them. So we would be very proactive and active amongst each other. And from the early stage, I think for one of many kids, you learn how to look after yourself a little bit, because you have older siblings and they're bigger than you. And then so you kind of figure out, okay, how am I going to make my way through life if I've got 5 other older kids than I am. So I think that's where you begin to refine yourself, your thinking, and then many things happen in your life in terms of the twists and turns, many stories which define you. And I'm sure as we go through the conversation over here, we'll cover many of those. But it's really, I was heavily influenced. My father was a diplomat, and I lived in different countries and different cultures. And they actually had a big impact on me on how to think about people first and foremost, because without people, there's really nothing you can do in life. And how to, make my way through. If I went into a new environment, how would I approach it? So from the early days, many of those elements, I think, helped shape who I am today.
Wonderful. So my question then would take to the point where you were able to make a decision in life. Can you recall the first important decision that you made which led to this trajectory that you have created and are creating?
Important decision. I think I would say that when I was in college, or when I finished college, and I was by degree an electrical engineer, and towards the final year I recognized that I'm more of an extrovert, or I'm not as much introverted to be an engineer in the lab, because I was in microelectronics, and I wanted to be a little bit out there. But I knew that no matter what, this may not be the field for me, but I had to go through it. I had to finish it because you're too far along to turn around. But once I went into the business world, in 3 months I decided to make a switch. Wow. And I figured out a way to make a switch, and everyone told me, what about your future? You spend all this time and everything. And I said, I'll figure this out.
So what was the compulsion in the new world that you discovered? What attracted you towards it? What triggered your passion?
So it was, I found that as an engineer, microelectronics, I was very much in a very little corner of a lab, building something but I had no perspective of what was going on around me at the bigger scale. And I wanted to be involved in moving, taking things to the next level, just making decisions that actually make an impact, right? Yes, I can make a chip which can be, earth-shattering, like a really great idea. But I felt that from the business side, I want to take my technical skills from the business side and maybe try to figure out how to solve a bigger problem, which involves a lot of people around me.
And in your remarks, what I detect is that you have been driven more by the spirit of giving as opposed to grabbing, taking, and maximizing on opportunities. So this generous spirit, for example, what could be the roots to that? Because your desire to contribute comes out loud and clear in your story.
I just fundamentally believe a couple of things, that you can do well and you can do good as a company, as a business. I've always made that a theme in everything I've done. And at the same time, there's a fundamental balance that are you going to give more than you're going to take from this world. And if you recognize that and make it part of your own self, these things become so much easier because you're not worried about taking and taking and taking. Because frankly, what are you going to do with it at the end of the day? I mean, it's all really meaningless. But if you can give back, I think that's a wonderful life to live.
Brilliant. I recall Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest men known on this planet. His remark really inspires me to this day. When he was asked, what is your goal in life, early in his career? And he said, I want to be the biggest taxpayer in the world. And I thought that echoes a lot in terms of what Osman Rashid Saab is saying, because this desire to be a bigger giver, outcomes, revenue, dollars, they come as a result of your desire to contribute.
Impact on people's life. I mean, that if you can do that, nothing is more meaningful than that.
So what pains you the most on this planet? I mean, you live, you feel, you're concerned, and something drives you. And of course, problems you see as opportunities. But what pains you most when you travel around the world and you witness the human condition? Because I'm sure that in your mind there are lots of different possibilities emerging all the time. But what would you say is the epicenter of your pain?
I think when you can go to any culture, any country, the ones who are doing well versus the ones who are not, you can bring it down to very simply the individuals in that country. Are they stepping up on their own? Do they refuse to say, I'm not okay with mediocrity, that I actually want to get to the next level, right? So I think the biggest painful thing is that an individual does not rise up to the potential that they actually have. Right?
Wow.
Because in every culture, in every country, if collectively they rise up to the potential, I mean, nothing will stop them.
Wow. So, human potential is infinite. And what pains you is to see lives cocooned in the finity of whatever that is.
I mean, for some people, the circumstances may not be there, but there are many, many stories which say that regardless of your circumstances, you can overcome it and you can live a better life.
Wonderful.
So tapping into human potential, and I think in your businesses that you started, Chegg being the first well-known startup that you have, and now we have Convo. When you look at your team, for example, you must have a dream for them. And I'm not sure if your team is conscious of not only your dream, but also the intensity with which you feel it. Would you care to share that with us?
Absolutely. It came to my head just like that. I don't have to think about it. I mean, my dream for anyone who works with me, for example, is to give them the opportunity to live their life the way they want to give them success so they can choose to do the things they want to do.
Wow.
So the way the company can do it, the company can give them financial success which allows them to make a decision. And some of them may choose to work, some of them may choose to do something else, but having that choice, that I think is a wonderful thing. I've experienced it, I've worked on it. There are other people who've helped me, there are other people who've enabled me to get to this point. And nothing would give me more happiness than giving that to each one of them, because it's not about me trying to keep them in my company. It's about, be who you can be.
Wow.
So it's a liberating philosophy, and it not only unleashes energy, but it also creates synergistic and collaborative possibilities in the future. So coming to the question of tapping into your own potential, surely you must have been afraid at some point in your life.
Many times.
And the question here is that fear grips us all at some point, at some level. ये खौफ जो है ये हमें कभी-कभी रोक देता है. How have you been able to use courage to confront your fears? What were the fears? What were the demons that you slaughtered in order to come through and utilize some of the potential that you discovered?
So I believe, these demons or these stressful situations, it's something where you don't understand what you're dealing with. It's a block, and it's nebulous. You really don't know how to deal with it. If you don't know how to deal with it, the human brain doesn't know what to do, and it's a cycle that you slip down into. My core philosophy is: can I find a corner? Can I find something tangible that I can grab onto? And then I believe in myself that I can keep at it, but I can keep pulling at the thread and see where it goes. But if a decision comes, a time comes to make a decision, I believe in myself that I'll try to make the right call. But if I didn't, I know there'll be another point to make the right call again.
Wow.
And so it's really finding that point that you can latch onto, because the human brain needs the ability to latch onto something.
Wow.
If it's completely mysterious, then you freeze. And then you call it anxiety, you call it stress, many of these things, but they all tend to come from the point where you don't know how to handle something, and you can't find that little corner to grab onto, put your fingers onto the wall to climb out of it. And that to me is the most critical thing.
Could it be from your life story that you were never afraid of mistakes, failures, setbacks, and that you took them in a certain way that maybe others don't, because fear of failure, fear of setbacks, fear of losing face often prevent us from going forward. So how, you must have made mistakes, and you're not perfect by any means. I mean, no human being is. So we would love to know, how did you accept the reality of imperfection, and also knowing that outcomes may or may not be to your liking, and yet to embark on a journey. Give us some insights that will give us the confidence to be able to pursue our dreams.
It's these are the little things in life. I would say that if you make the same mistake again and again, you never learned it the first time, which means you weren't paying attention, which means you're not aware of what's going on around you. So it's okay to make a mistake, but then be upset at yourself for repeating it again, because that is an indication of a lot of things you're not doing, right? So mistakes are part of life. Frankly, if you're not making enough mistakes, it means you actually weren't trying hard enough. So breaking things, making mistakes is totally all right. Self-inflicted wounds, that's when you really, it's something that you shouldn't be doing again, right? I mean, so once you bring down some of these philosophies in life, a lot of these things just become simple. They're not so hard to latch onto, because if you're cognizant of what you're doing and you recognize the mistake, that means you're thinking about it, you're using your brain, you're analyzing, you're problem solving. And then from there, you're going to say, all right, I did this thing wrong. Let me make sure when the trend becomes next time, I'm going to try to make the the decision to change it. Because there is no one big decision in your life that is going to make or break what you do. It's like thousands of decisions you make in a company, as a personal individual, in your marriage, with your kids, small little things. And those are the ones, if you keep eye on them, you can actually trend more towards doing the right thing than the wrong thing.
So the question that follows is that you've been bruised and you have fallen, you've bounced back, and you've seen every setback as a stepping stone, and you've jumped higher every time. And now that you have attained, relatively speaking, a very successful profile and financial standing as well, What keeps you down to earth? What keeps you connected with, I mean, I don't feel I'm talking to a monster, right? So what keeps you so down to earth?
Because there's way more to learn than I know. Way more. And there are so many more brilliant, smarter people than me that if I just listen a little bit more, I love the saying that you have one mouth in 2 years, use them in that proportion, right? There's a way more opportunity to learn from other people because there are way more smarter people than you are, than I am, right? And so that's the fundamental guiding principle. That my goal is that I'm having a conversation, maybe I learn something from it, and then I can do it. Right?
So your best teachers are around you all the time.
Of course.
God, watch out.
Yes.
You must find out what has he been learning from you all without telling you. So the question that I would now like to ask you is that we are living in a reality. Mm-hmm. And reality to me is a very subjective phenomena. हकीकत एक बहुत ही ज़ाती फेल है, सबकी हकीकत फ़र्क होती है. What is your reality? We want to see the world and Pakistan and Convo from your eyes. We want to see it from where you are.
So the reality is that huge massive potential is in front of us, right? Potential is always there. And who is going to reach out and grab it? And once you have it, what do you know what to do with it? And then how do you realize this just was actually one little step that I took, right? Because there's way more beyond it. In terms of Pakistan, for Convo, my hope is that how do we make a great enterprise software product company out of Pakistan? Pakistan historically has been a services country. But you need to build product if you really want to take your rightful place in the global scene. We're the 5th largest country by population. I think every time we're number 5, it's not for any of the good things, right? So how do you flip the story? How do you do that? And you need examples of that for companies and enterprises and giving the tools people need. I mean, that's why we're starting our SOAR STEM schools, because these kids who are in elementary school today, primary school today, 20 years from now, nobody knows what jobs they'll be facing, like we didn't know 20 years ago. But if they know how to problem solve, if they know how to think about a problem, if they have empathy is critical, right? Then they have fighting capital, right? So these are the things, and I'm trying to do my bit, right? I'm trying to, in this big universe, I can do my small bit. Maybe enough people do their small bits, and then it becomes a system.
It catches on.
It catches on. Can you be the catalyst for something and try to do that?
Wonderful.
And in terms of STEM that you've initiated at SOAR, I was looking up your philosophy, which is to have quality teachers, because they're the ones who ultimately make a difference. Buildings come after. So what drives your, because education is a very long-term, slow process. And at the same time, you've experienced short-term successes as well. And question was, how do you marry the short-term orientation to the long-term, which is really talking of decades and centuries, for the impact to be felt?
It's the, on a regular basis, you're getting feedback, input coming into your system. And does that feedback coming into your system align with the philosophy that you have for the long term? Are you on the right path or not? I'll give an example that if a parent stops one of my principals or one of us to say, for the first time my child is speaking confidently at home before they wouldn't meet eyes with anybody else. Because we say communication, speaking up is an important part of our philosophy, because the notion of STEM is not to make everybody an engineer. The idea is that we want them to be able to think about any problem and solve it. Because this upcoming generation, kids today, they have massive problems that they need to go solve. So are the smaller things aligning to the core philosophy? I mean, if we say teachers are important but we don't pay them well, we don't give them the necessary training, we don't give them the environment, then you're just, profiteering. right? Another core philosophy that we have is that we want to give this, amazing education at a fair price, right? We want this to be a for-profit business which can be around on its own without requiring somebody to hold it up. But can we give the education that's fair? Can we make sure that the teachers who are teaching it have the right tools? Can we make sure that the parents, for example, it's a funny story actually. One of our parents the other day said that the kid was actually telling a story that my mom said that now that you're at SWORD, I don't have to pay tuition fee. And I changed all the curtains in the house with the same money, right? If you really step back and think about it, I mean, you're sending a kid to school, yet in the evening they have to go to tuition to stay at par. And our philosophy is that no, if you didn't learn it at school, we will do the remedial instruction. Teachers will stay late with the kid and get them. Right? So these are all the small little things that we're trying to do, but not come across as profiteers. Because that is a very core philosophy when we started out. When we said quality education at a quality price, we actually meant it.
Pakistan has a huge pool of people from different backgrounds, academic and others. How do you ensure that you get that mindset and the belief and the philosophy which is so aligned to your very cogent and clear vision?
My co-founder, Shazia Khan, she's the educator of the two of us, great partner of mine. She does amazing training, right? But for us, the training is not just put them in a room and do it. The actual learning happens in the classroom. And how do you then go help the teacher? You're not going to go and you're doing this wrong. You say, hey, there's a better way of doing something. So we actually follow through in the classroom with the teachers, right? And we try to ensure that we're saying, okay, this is the right way to do something. It's the way maybe you were doing in the past. It's not the best way. I mean, I'll tell you that many times we hire teachers, they can't really ask a kid a question without leading them to an answer. And the idea of the concept-based learning is that the kid think about the answer, let them come up with the wrong answer, even if it's not directly applied to what you're doing, but help them get to the answer which the concept is asking them to get to.
So coming to education, now we're talking of child education as well as adult education. Carnelian is in the adult world, and also we work with youth. My question to you then would be that with education, does character building become part of that? Because if you look at STEM, that is talking of science and technology and engineering and mathematics. But none of these have the ethical dimension incorporated within. Now, I find that if an individual is educated, smart, and is lacking in the ethical base, the character base, the tarbiyat that we talk about, where parents have a huge role, and you've been fortunate to have parents. I think I can judge your parents by you, that they must have given you some upbringing,
Absolutely.
some core values which are so powerful. Yeah. So how are you addressing the character building component?
We can come up with an engineering way of how to reduce trash. At the same way, teach them empathy about it.
Wow.
Even tell them that if your parent throws it out the window so that they don't want to keep their car dirty, let them know. Okay, maybe we should go back and pick it up because we should put it somewhere over here, right? So we are actually threading that empathy and all these things across how we learn it, how we teach it.
All right.
We don't just go let's just go do math. We actually, everything is interlinked and aligned with each other.
And contextualized.
Right? And we have themes every month, but those are underlying themes of what kids need to learn. The idea is that this is teaching what kids need as part of the education system. At some point, they have to take a test.
Right.
They have to do all those things. But we're teaching them all those things, but it's interwoven.
So coming to Convo for a second, and here, for example, you're leading by example, and I think that's one of the reasons why people are inspired by you. What is your vision for Convo in Pakistan? I have a rough idea, but then as an outsider, that's something. I want to know what's coming, what to look forward to, and what led you to come up with the concept behind Convo?
The idea is that Pakistan has an opportunity to leapfrog technology and actually move itself to a next generation solution, right? Instead of having the country muddle through email, which frankly is not the best mode of communication, but it's prevalent, that these new technologies are coming in, and Pakistan has an opportunity, just like they skipped the wired phone, they went to mobile phone, they have the same opportunity over here.
Right.
So with that tool and ability to work, can we expose more information to all the employees? Can we get them to make better decisions? Can we get them to communicate more? And this is, it'll take a decade or so, right? It's a long-term approach that we have. At the same time, as a country, you should own your data. Your platforms should be, for the government and other people. Hacking is going on everywhere. You should own your information and your data for your country, for your people in your country. Everyone's moving towards that. It's not just a Pakistan-centric thing. Every major organization, country has their data protected. Yet we put everything out on WhatsApp and other things, and frankly, it can walk away. Your enterprise information, your government information can walk away along with it. So the vision for us is that can we really become that enterprise software provider within Pakistan, which is delivering actual value to the people who are going to use it. We just didn't sell them some licenses which are sitting on a shelf. We push hard for them to use it actually.
So it's a kind of a secure ecosystem in which people can freely exchange amongst themselves, knowing that what is being discussed stays in the system itself and doesn't walk.
Absolutely. I mean, if we think about how communication has changed, we've gone from email to social media as consumers, right?
Right.
When the consumer walks into the office, they get the old style of communication, and what do? They say, well, I want that.
Yes.
Start using consumer tools at the enterprise.
True.
And now everything has become the wild west.
True.
So we actually bring all of those into a secure environment. We bring we bring the best of breed product. We'll make sure that the data is local. And we'll allow you to adapt it to your culture and your company a little bit than just saying, hey, we are so big that you'll never hear from us, you better use the way we think you should use it. What we're saying is, well, we know that you're a little bit different, so we'll tweak it for you.
I think in some ways, privacy has become a big subject, and with social media gone viral the way it has, and information and misinformation, I feel that what you're offering today is that peace of mind. Okay, you can have the benefits that you've become accustomed to in the outside world and apply that benefit with comfort and confidence within your own ecosystems.
Absolutely. That is a key part of what we're trying to build over here.
Wonderful.
And at the same time, have the tools which you don't want to pull your hair out, right? I mean, you want this style of communication.
Yes.
Because your work day might be easier.
Right.
Because you're not just waiting for something to happen next time.
So the world has done the R&D for you. You're creating a platform and utilizing the benefits that have been experienced in a much more safer environment.
We're trying to bring in the workflows which make your business run into the platform. One of the problems you see on your mobile phone is now enterprises are giving you so many applications, you don't know where to log in, what to do with it. And what we're saying is we're leading you towards a unified interface. You keep your backends, your systems there, but from one platform you'll be able to do your HR, your finances, your work, everything from one interface.
And in the hand. And in the hand.
And in the hand.
Wow. So because we are running out of time and your team is also present, what one message would you like to share with the magical people in Convo? So what kind of message would you like to share with them?
Convo would be nothing without you.
Wow.
Simple as that.
Wow. Beautiful.
And I push you because I know you can do better. And only those companies and people who push themselves are the ones who can achieve greatness. And my wish is for all of you to have that because it's an amazing place to be.
Wonderful. I wish I was young enough to apply at Convo and work with you and get stretched, pushed, so that I come out of mediocrity and pursue excellence as a way of life. Thank you so much for giving us the time.
Thank you so much.
I thoroughly enjoyed it as well. A big hand to our friend Usman Rashid. I wish this time window was longer.
Yeah.
And inshallah, at some other point, we could do a follow-up. But wonderful to meet you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Allah Hafiz.